Stand at the edge of a cliff, not near it, at it, toes over the drop, wind moving against your chest. You are not afraid of falling. There is a railing. You are perfectly safe. And yet, something rises in you anyway. A strange, dizzying pull, half terror and half temptation, as if some part of you is asking, what if I jumped? Not because you want to die, because you suddenly, viscerally understand that you could. Nothing is stopping you but yourself. A Danish philosopher writing in the 1840s believed this exact feeling, this dizziness at the edge, was the truest picture of what it feels like to be human. He called it anxiety, and his claim was almost unbearable in its honesty. Anxiety is not a malfunction. It is not something to be cured away. It is the precise, unavoidable price of the one thing every human being claims to want more than anything else: freedom. Søren Kierkegaard lived a short, strange, brilliant life in Copenhagen, dying at just 42, having spent much of his fortune and his final years writing under a small army of pseudonyms, as if one identity could not possibly contain everything he had to say. He is often called the father of existentialism, though he would have rejected the label since it did not yet exist. What he actually was, first and foremost, was a psychologist decades before psychology called itself a science, a thinker obsessed not with abstract systems, but with what it actually feels like, from the inside, to be a self. And in 1844, in a book with a deceptively clinical title, The Concept of Anxiety, he made a distinction that modern psychology would spend the next century and a half rediscovering in its own language. Fear, Kierkegaard said, always has an object. You fear the dog, the exam, the diagnosis, the fall. Name the object, remove it, and the fear dissolves. Anxiety is different. Anxiety has no object. It does not point at anything in the world. It points, impossibly, at possibility itself. You can be anxious in a room with no danger in it at all. Anxious about your life, your future, who you might become, what you might do, and there is nothing to name, nothing to remove, because the thing you are anxious about has not happened yet. It might never happen. It might not even be a specific it. This, Kierkegaard said, is the most peculiar and most human of all feelings. Dread with no object, caused by nothing except the sheer, open-ended fact that you are free to become many different things, and you do not yet know which one you will choose. To explain this, Kierkegaard reached for the oldest story in the Western tradition: Adam, alone in the garden, standing before the one tree he has been told not to touch. And Kierkegaard asks a question theologians before him had strangely avoided. What did Adam actually feel in the moment just before he reached for the fruit? Not guilt. Guilt requires having already acted. Not simple curiosity. Kierkegaard's answer is anxiety. Adam, for the first time, understands that he could. The prohibition itself is what creates the possibility. Before the command, there was no forbidden thing to imagine reaching for. The moment a boundary exists, the mind cannot help but glimpse what lies on the other side of it. And that glimpse, that dizzying awareness of an open possibility that did not exist a moment before, is anxiety being born. Kierkegaard called this the dizziness of freedom, the exact sensation, he said, of looking down into your own possibility, the way you might look down over the edge of a very tall building and feeling your eye drawn, almost against your will, toward the depths beneath you. He described it as freedom looking down into its own possibility and grasping at finiteness to stop the fall. The eye is not afraid of the ground below. It is unsettled by the sheer vertiginous freedom of what it could do, And that unsettling is not a flaw in the human being. It is the exact price tag attached to the fact that you are not a rock, not an animal running on pure instinct, but a creature who has to choose, again and again, who it is going to be. You were never anxious about the fall. You were anxious about your own hand reaching for the edge. Here is where Kierkegaard's insight becomes genuinely strange and genuinely beautiful. A stone cannot feel anxious because a stone has no possibility. It simply obeys the laws of physics. No more choice in its fate than a falling leaf. An animal, Kierkegaard argued, comes closer, but still lives mostly inside instinct, inside a kind of innocent immediacy, where the next moment is already more or less decided by nature. Only a being capable of imagining multiple futures, only a being who can stand in the present moment and genuinely feel the pull of several different paths at once, can feel anxiety, because anxiety is, in the end, simply what freedom feels like from the inside before a choice has been made. This is why anxiety in Kierkegaard's account is not evidence that something has gone wrong with you. It is evidence that you are exactly what you are, a self capable of becoming many things, standing at a fork with no signpost, aware that whichever path you choose will foreclose all the others. The philosopher Jean-Paul Sartre, writing roughly a century later without ever fully crediting Kierkegaard by name, arrived at an almost identical conclusion, describing the same vertigo he called anguish, the dizzying realization, standing at a cliff's edge, that nothing in the universe determines what you will do next, except your own freedom. He would go on to write that we are, in his famous and unsettling phrase, condemned to be free, condemned because freedom was not something we asked for, and yet we cannot escape the burden of using it, moment after moment, choice after choice, for as long as we live. And now we reach the turn in the story, the idea that makes this 200-year-old book feel like it was written yesterday. Kierkegaard did not think the goal of a human life was to eliminate anxiety. He thought that project was not only impossible, but actively dangerous, because he believed anxiety, faced honestly, is one of the great teachers available to a human being. He wrote, in a line that has outlived nearly everything else he produced, that whoever has learned to be anxious in the right way has learned the most important thing of all, not the person who has learned to feel nothing, the person who has learned to sit inside the dizziness of their own freedom without collapsing, without fleeing into distraction, without numbing it away, and to come out the other side again and again, more fully themselves. Because here is the trap most people fall into instead, the one Kierkegaard diagnosed with almost unsettling precision. Rather than face the discomfort of standing at the edge of their own possibility, most people quietly hand their freedom away. They let the crowd decide, they let convention decide, they let what everyone does decide, so that no real choice, and therefore no real anxiety, ever has to be confronted. Kierkegaard had a word of contempt for this. He called it living aesthetically, skimming across the surface of experience, chasing novelty and pleasure and social approval precisely to avoid ever standing still long enough to feel the vertigo of a real decision. It looks, from the outside, like freedom. Endless options, endless movement, nothing ever pinning you down. But Kierkegaard's verdict was severe. A life spent avoiding the dizziness of freedom is not a free life at all. It is a life quietly organized around never becoming anyone in particular. Modern psychology, arriving at this same territory nearly a century later, gave it new language without ever quite escaping Kierkegaard's shadow. The theologian and psychologist Paul Tillich, drawing openly on Kierkegaard, distinguished between the ordinary, situational fears we can treat and remove, and what he called ontological anxiety, the anxiety simply built into being a finite, free creature aware of its own death, its own guilt, its own potential meaninglessness. And the psychotherapist Rollo May, in his influential study, The Meaning of Anxiety, made a distinction clinicians still use today. Normal anxiety, the appropriate, even necessary discomfort that accompanies real growth and real choice, versus neurotic anxiety, the disproportionate, paralyzing kind that emerges precisely when normal anxiety has been suppressed, avoided, or never properly faced. In other words, the very anxiety we spend so much energy trying to eliminate may not be the illness at all. Sometimes, refusing to feel it is. The goal was never to feel nothing. The goal was to stand in the dizziness without running. This is, strangely, the most relevant Kierkegaard has ever been. The psychologist Barry Schwartz, studying decision-making in contemporary life, documented something he called the paradox of choice. Past a certain point, more options do not produce more freedom or more satisfaction. They produce paralysis, regret, and a persistent, low-grade dread that whatever you choose, you are simultaneously losing every alternative you didn't. Stand in a supermarket aisle facing 40 kinds of jam, or scroll a dating app with what feels like infinite potential partners, or face a career landscape offering 1,000 plausible paths, and you are standing, in miniature, exactly where Kierkegaard's Adam stood before the tree, not oppressed by limitation, but destabilized by an almost limitless field of possibility, with no signpost telling you which branch is yours. The modern world did not remove the dizziness Kierkegaard described. It simply multiplied the edges we stand on every single day. So what, in the end, do you do with the dizziness? Kierkegaard did not offer a technique, and he was famously suspicious of easy answers. But threaded through his work is something closer to a posture than a solution. He believed the anxious person's task was not to seek solid ground outside themselves, not the crowd's approval, not a borrowed set of rules, not the comfortable numbness of never really choosing, but to take what he called the leap, a committed act of choice, made without the guarantee of certainty, made in spite of the dizziness rather than after it has been resolved. Certainty, in Kierkegaard's account, only ever arrives after the leap, never before it. Waiting for the fear to disappear before you choose is waiting for something that was never going to come, because the fear is not a sign that you're choosing wrong. It is simply what choosing honestly feels like from the inside. This reframes the entire experience. The trembling you feel before a real decision, leaving the secure job, ending the relationship that no longer fits, telling the truth you have been avoiding, choosing a life your family did not choose for you, is not proof that something is wrong. In Kierkegaard's account, it may be the surest evidence you have that something real is actually at stake, that you are standing, for once, at a genuine edge of your own possibility, rather than sleepwalking through a life someone else designed for you. So go back to the cliff. The dizziness you feel standing there was never really about the drop. It was your own freedom, looking back at you, asking what you intend to do with it. Kierkegaard's strange, difficult gift was to tell us that this feeling will never fully go away, and that this is not bad news. A creature incapable of anxiety would be a creature incapable of becoming anything at all, a stone, an animal running on pure instinct, a life lived entirely by default. The price of being able to become someone, rather than simply being something, is that you will feel again and again the vertigo of your own open possibility. The question was never how to make the dizziness disappear. The question is whether, standing at the edge, trembling, uncertain, you will finally take the leap and become someone rather than no one at all. So here is the question worth sitting with. Where in your life have you been mistaking the absence of anxiety for the presence of freedom, quietly avoiding the edges that actually matter, so you never have to feel the fall? And what might change if you let yourself feel the dizziness instead of running from it?